Tonight I'm reading from Hogfather, a book by Terry Pratchett. Sir Terry Pratchett. He is a master word crafter because he has gone far beyond words, far beyond thoughts, into the concepts that reach into people's souls. If ever you wanted to aspire to being a writer, listen to how he does it. Okay. Characters that we will be going over. Mr. Death. Albert, his manservant, who is herein called Pixie Albert, and he hates that. There's the king, there's the page, and there's the peasant. Again, this is a very limited cast of characters for a Pratchett book, but this is only an excerpt. What's gone before? Mr. Death is filling in for the Hogfather, who is more or less Santa Claus, because of other reasons. And have you ever read a Pratchett book where there are not 10,000 weaving strands? Okay, well, he's keeping the Hogfather's place in the universe open so that the Hogfather, after he gets done fighting with the other side, he'll have a place to come back. Ready? "Down there," said Death. The reins were hauled so sharply, so quickly, that the hogs ended up facing the other way. Albert fought his way out of a drift of teddy bears where he had been dozing. "What's up? What's up? Did we hit something?" he said. Death pointed downward. An endless white snowfield lay below. Only the occasional glow of a window candle or a half-covered hut indicated a presence on this world of brief mortality. Albert squinted, and he saw what Death had spotted. "There's some bugger trudging along the snow," he said. "Been gathering wood by the look of it. Bad night to be out," he said. "And I'm out in it too, come to think of that. Look, master, I'm sure you've done enough good to make sure that something's happening down there. Ho, ho, ho." "Look, he's all right," said Albert, hanging out as far as the sleigh would allow as it tumbled down. There was a brief wedge of light below as the wood-gatherer opened the door to a snow-drifted hovel. "See, there's a couple of other blokes catching him up, and they're weighted down with parcels and stuff, see? He's going to have a decent hog-watch dinner after all. No problem there. Now can we go?" Death's glowing eye sockets took in the scene in minute detail. "It is wrong." "Oh, no. Here we go again." Okay. Other things happen, and we get back to it. Okay? Here we are. The old man in the hovel looked uncertainly at the feast spread in front of him. He sat on his stool as curled up on himself as a spider in a flame. "I've got a bit of a mess of beans cooking," he murmured, looking at his visitors through filmy eyes. "Good heavens, you can't have beans at Hogwatch," said the king, smiling hugely. "That's terribly unlucky, eating beans at Hogwatch. My word, yes." "Didn't know that," the old man said, looking down desperately at his lap. "We've brought you a magnificent spread. Don't you think so?" "I bet you're so incredibly grateful for it, too," said the page, sharply. "Well, yes, of course. It's kind of you, gentlemen," said the old man, his voice the size of a mouse. He blinked uncertainly of what to do next. "The turkey's hardly been touched at all, and there's still plenty of meat on it," said the king. "And do have some of this cracking good widgeon, stuffed with swan's liver." "Only I'm partial to a bowl of beans, and I've never been beholden to no one or nobody," said the old man, still staring at his lap. "Good heavens, man, you don't have to worry about that," said the king heartily. "It's Hogwatch. I was only just now looking out of the window and saw you plodding through the snow, and I said to young Germain here, I said, 'Who's that chappie?' And he said, 'Oh, it's some peasant fellow who lives up by the forest.' And I said, 'Well, I couldn't eat another thing, and it's Hogwatch after all.' And so we just bundled everything up, and here we are." "And I expect you're pathetically thankful," said the page. "I expect we've brought a ray of light into your dark tunnel of a life. Well, yes, of course, I've been saving 'em for weeks, see? There's some bacon potatoes under the fire. I found 'em in the cellar, and the mice had hardly touched 'em." The old man never raised his eyes from knee level. "And our dad brought me up never to ask for—" "Listen," said the king, raising his voice a little. "I've walked miles tonight, and I bet you've never seen food like this in your whole life, eh?" Tears of humiliated embarrassment were rolling down the old man's face. "Well, I'm sure it's very kind of you fine gentlemen, but I ain't sure I knows how to eat swans and such like. But if you want a bit of my beans, you've only got to say—" "Let me make this absolutely clear," said the king sharply. "This is some genuine hogwatch charity, do you understand? And we're going to sit here and watch the smile on your grubby but honest face. Is that understood?" "And what do you say to the king?" the page prompted. The peasant hung his head even farther. "Thank you." "Right," said the king, sitting back. "Now pick up your fork." The door burst open. An indistinct figure strode into the room, snow swirling in it a cloud. "What's going on here?" The page started to stand up, drawing his sword. He never worked out how the other figure could have gotten behind him, but there it was, pressing him gently down again. "Hello, my name's Albert," said a voice behind his ear. "Why don't you just put that sword back very slowly? People might get hurt." A finger prodded the king, who had been too shocked to move. "What do you think you are doing, sire?" The king tried to focus on the figure. There was an impression of red and white, but black as well. To Albert's secret amazement, the man managed to get to his feet and draw himself up as regally as he could. "What is going on here, whoever you are, is some fine old hogwatch charity, and who—" "No, it's not." "What? How dare you?" "Were you here last month? Will you be here next week?" "No. But tonight you wanted to feel all warm inside. Tonight you will want them to say what a good king he is." "Oh no, he's gone too far," muttered Albert under his breath. He pushed the page down again. No, you stay still, sonny, else you'll be just a paragraph." "Whatever it is, it's more than he's got," snapped the king. "And all we've had from him so far is ingratitude." "Yes, that does rather spoil it, doesn't it?" Death leaned forward. "Go away." To the king's own surprise, his body took over and marched him out the door. Albert patted the page on the shoulder. "And you can run along too," he said. "I didn't mean to go upsetting anyone. It's just that I never asked no one for nothing," mumbled the old man in a small, humble world of his own. His hands tangled themselves together out of nervousness. "Best if you leave this one to me, master, if you don't mind," said Albert. "I'll be back in just a tick. Loose ends," he thought to himself. "That's my job, tying up loose ends. The master never thinks things through." He caught up with the king outside. "Ah, there you are, your sire," he said. "Just before you go. Won't be keeping you a minute. Just a minor point." Albert leaned close to the stunned monarch. "If anyone was thinking about making a mistake, like maybe sending the guards down here tomorrow and tipping the old man out of his hovel, chucking him in prison, anything like that, well, it's the kind of mistake you ought to be treasuring on account of it being the last mistake you'd ever make. Words of the wise men, right?" He tapped the side of his nose conspiratorially. "Happy hogwatch." Then he hurried back inside the hovel. The feast had vanished. The old man was still looking blurrily at the bare table. "Half-eaten leavings," said Death. "We could certainly do better than this." He reached into his sack. Albert grabbed his arm before he could withdraw his hand. "Mind taking a bit of advice, master? I was brung up in a place like this." "Does it bring tears to your eyes?" "A box of matches to me hand, more like. Listen." The old man was only dimly aware of some whispering. He sat hunched up, staring at nothing. "Well, if you are sure." "Been there, done that, chewed the bones," said Albert. "Charity ain't giving people what you wants to give. It's giving people what they need to get." "Very well." Death reached into the sack again. "Happy hogwatch. Ho, ho, ho." There was a string of sausages. There was a side of bacon, a small tub of salt pork, a mass of chitterlings wrapped up in greased paper. There was a black pudding. There were several other tubs of disgusting, yet savory pork-adjacent items, highly prized in any pig-based economy. And, laid on the table with a soft thump, there was... "A pig's head?" breathed the old man. "A whole one! Ain't had brawn in years, and a basin of pig knuckles, and a bowl of pork drippings." "Ho, ho, ho!" "Amazing," said Albert. "How did you get the head's expression to look like the king's?" "I think that was accidental." Albert patted the old man on the back. "Have yourself a ball," he said. "In fact, have two. Now I think we ought to be going, master." They left the old man staring at the laden board. "Wasn't that nice?" said Death, as the hogs accelerated. "Oh, yes," said Albert, shaking his head. "Poor old devil. Beans at Hogwatch? Unlucky, that. Not a night for a man to find a bean in his bowl." "I feel I was cut out for this sort of thing, you know." "Really, master?" "It's nice to do a job that people look forward to seeing you." "Ah," said Albert glumly. "They don't normally look forward to seeing me." "Yeah, I expect so." "Except in special and rather unfortunate circumstances." Right. And they seldom leave a glass of sherry out." "I expect they don't." "Nope." "I could get into the habit of doing this, in fact." "But you won't need to, will you, master?" said Albert hurriedly, with the horrible prospect of being a permanent Pixie Albert looming in his mind again. "Because we'll get the Hogfather back, right? That's what you said we were going to do, right? And young Susan's probably out bustling around." "Yes, of course." "Not that you asked her to, of course." Albert's jittery ears didn't detect any enthusiasm. "Oh dear," he thought. "I have always chosen the path of duty." "Right, master." The sleigh sped on. "I am thoroughly in control and firm of purpose." "No problem there, then, master," said Albert. "No need to worry at all." "Pleased to hear it, master." "If I had a first name, Duty would be my middle name." "Good." "Nevertheless." Albert strained his ears and thought he heard, just on the edge of the hearing, a voice whispering sadly, "Ho, ho, ho." That was a brief reading of a few pages out of Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. It was copyrighted back in 1996 by Terry Pratchett and Lynn Pratchett. If you haven't read this book before, and this doesn't inspire you to go out and find it, I don't know what to tell you. He's an amazing writer. Well worth any time you spend reading or finding his books on like Audible or whatever. To put some things in perspective, Susan, mentioned herein, I forgot that up front, is Death's granddaughter. Oh yeah, how's that work out? One of the things that Pixie Albert says that is just absolutely to the heart: charity is not giving people what you want to give. It's giving people what they need to get. And that's just buried into the text. One of the reasons why Pratchett is amazing. He puts these things in there just in the flow of conversation that could rip a heart in half, and it's just in the flow of conversation. Go out, buy the book, enjoy the story. Have a wonderful evening.